So today I'm going to be making a video on the differences between the pros and the semi-pros. Now, a subscriber actually requested for this video. He wanted to know the differences between the the college slash university level to the semi-pro level and the semi-pro level compared to the pro level. Now, in each scenario, in each case, the differences are always the same in my opinion. That the key components that separate um, a college player to the semi-pros and the semi-pros to the professionals, the key components are the same. It's just at different levels. So let's say, for example, like we could take an example like technical ability. Obviously, technical ability at the college slash university level is here. At semi-pro level is here, and then at pro level is here. So when I talk about the differences that I'm going to talk about, it correlates with all the same. So I'm going to be focusing purely just on the pros and the semi-pros because obviously, me personally, I've played semi-professional football, and obviously I've spoken to guys who have sort of they've played the semi-pro and then they've made that jump, and then some of them have managed to stay there, and then some of them have unfortunately had to drop back down because obviously the levels are so high, the competition was so high, and they basically just couldn't keep up. But they're still great players. They're still great players to just make it to that pro level in the first place. So I'm going to be talking about the main differences between professional footballers and semi-professional footballers. And the first difference is the mentality. Now with the professionals, the mentality is literally always everything I do in my life is geared towards me becoming a better footballer. So you'll see this with their diets, their training, their recovery. After training, they'll watch game film, they'll watch analysis, they'll analyze the game, they'll break down different parts of the game and say, okay, how do I get better at this? For example, in training, they're getting on themselves. Every single touch has to be clean. I know you guys have seen them training videos where they're spraying the ball. Maybe they're spraying the ball. There's two players spraying the ball to each other. Maybe they're doing a rondo. You can tell the quality is so high. Everything is crisp. Every touch is crisp. Every touch is perfect. Every pass is perfectly weighted as well. And obviously, these players in their mind, they're thinking to themselves, okay, they're holding that standard to themselves to say, okay, cool, my touch has to be good, my passing has to be good. I need to play it onto my teammates' good foot, whether that's his back foot, his front foot, right foot, left foot, doesn't matter. They're always just setting the highest standard for themselves. And they're not only setting the highest standards for themselves, but the people around them as well. So if there's one guy not pulling his weight, then you know there's gonna be a few guys telling him, yo, up the quality, it's not good, it's not good enough. Whereas maybe when you're in the lower levels, you don't really get that sort of demand. Like maybe you'll mess up and everyone will tell you, oh, it's all right, or you might mess up and people won't really get onto you like that. But at the pro levels, the standards have to be set up here because let's be honest, that's just the levels. That's just the levels. That's just the competition who you're playing against at the pro level. So yeah, and the pros, they set high standards for themselves in training. They set high standards for other people in training, and then obviously in the matches, when it comes to match day, standards have to be set up here because people are fighting. Because at the pro level, people are fighting for places. Obviously, the competition is mad. People are fighting for contracts as well. You gotta remember that football's a business also. There might be certain guys maybe going into the last year of their contract and they need to fight for a new contract, or if they're not going to get a contract from this team, they need to have contracts lined up for other teams as well. So yes, so yeah, even at the pro level, if you ain't like if you're not Premier League, Championship, League One, League Two, you get guys who there's like a certain level, like probably like the lowest level of like professional football. Most of the players there, they only sign 1 year contracts, so there's no sort of guarantee, there's no sort of like security. They're literally every single day they're just fighting for a contract. So the mentality just has to be geared towards, I need to become a better player. I need to get a professional contract because at the end of the day, this is their livelihoods. You know what I'm saying? So most of the pro players, they're literally on a year. Their contracts are literally on a year-to-year basis. So yeah, the mentality just has to be there. Everything has to be geared towards becoming a better footballer. Whereas at the semi-pro level, I've seen this myself. After the game, people are going for beers in the pub. I remember my first ever game. There's like a what's it called? There's like a pub to the side of like where the stadium is. I remember we went in there after the game. I just see people having beers. I see people with boxes of pizzas. Like it was crazy. Like for some reason I thought everyone was gonna be, professional. Everyone was gonna be eating healthy. Everyone was gonna be doing this, doing that. But nah, the semi-pro level is more like Yeah, people are just no, they're just talented. They're just really just talented players. Obviously, they work hard in training. They do all of that. They work hard in the matches. They still play well, but obviously, not. They don't the seriousness and how serious they take their bodies, how serious they take their recovery sessions. It's nowhere near towards towards the professional levels because at the end of the day, at semi-pro, it's not their job. You know what I'm saying? So they don't really it's not their full-time job, so they don't have that time, that effort to dedicate it. These guys are working 9 to 5s. They probably some of these guys have kids, they have families, responsibilities. So like I said, they don't have that time to dedicate be dedicating 6 hours to 6 hours to football. When I'm talking 6 hours, I'm talking about maybe 2 hours to training, an hour doing like gym work, an hour stretching, doing recovery, making sure the body's good, maybe another hour or 2 hours watching, doing game analysis. Like they don't have the time to be doing that. So that's the first difference. Literally at the pro level, the mentality literally is everything I do in my life, literally from the big things to the small things, is all about me becoming a better player because the competition is so high. So the next difference I want to talk about is strengths and weaknesses. Now, when it comes to the pro level, every single pro at least has that one or two attributes that set them apart from everybody else. Whether they're a winger and they have incredible pace and dribbling, whether it's a centre back and they're extremely strong and extremely quick, whether it's a fullback who has a great delivery and a great reading of the game. Every single professional has those one or two attributes that make them who they are, basically, that basically create their player profile. And as well as that, their weaknesses their weaknesses are not what's it called? Their weaknesses aren't like so much worse than their strengths. You know what I'm saying? So a professional footballer, their strengths will be up here, and then their weaknesses will probably be there. That's probably their weakest attribute. Whereas a semi-professional player, their strong suits will be up here, but then they'll have certain things in their game where you look at it and you'll be like, damn, like his weaknesses are down there. Like there might be semi-professional footballers who they're great athletes. They can run. They have a great change of direction, but you give them the ball and it's like passing the ball off a wall. Like they have no first touch whatsoever. Like obviously you don't get that at the professional level. Even if someone doesn't have the greatest touch at the pro level, they can still trap a ball easily. They can still manipulate a ball well. Whereas at the semi pro level, you might have this great athlete, has all the physical attributes for the pro game, but but like I said, technical ability is not there. You pass this guy the ball's rolling under his foot. The ball, it's like the ball's rolling under his foot. His touch is going 5 yards in front of him. He's having to chase it all the time. And obviously, he might be able to get away with that at semi-pro level. Having a poor touch and then being able to recover. But once you get to that pro level, everything has to be crisp. Everything has to be sharp because if you take a heavy touch at the pro level, other players are sharp. Players like sharpness and reading of the game, they're gonna pick that off. They're gonna take the ball off you if your touch is going 5 yards in front of you, 10 yards in front of you. There's no way you can get away with that. So, and as well as that as well, another example, there might be a player who technically he's amazing. He can shoot, he can pass, he has awareness of the game, he has spatial awareness. He knows when to check his shoulders, and his game intelligence is there, but he's 10 kg overweight. You know what I'm saying? You might find that at the semi-pro level, like you look at this guy and you think, yo, he has everything technically, but then he's 10 kg overweight and he can't really move. So when he gets to like the pro levels, when he gets to the pro levels, they're guys with that same technical ability as he have, as that guy has, but they're fit, they're in shape, they're not 10 kg overweight, they're sharp, they have elite fitness to go with it as well. So that's probably the second difference, is that all the pros have one or two great attributes, as well as their weaknesses not being down here. Their weaknesses aren't glaring to the point where you're looking at them like, God, where you're looking at it like that's preventing him from getting to the pro level. So what I'd advise you guys to do is that obviously with your strengths, work on work on your strengths, work on having that one or two things to really like make you who you are. If you're a great dribbler and you have a great shot, obviously work on that. Make that who you are, because obviously as a player you don't want to be having an identity crisis where you don't really know who you are. You're average, you're okay at everything, and then you don't really know your position. You don't really know your game. You know what I'm saying? You want to have a clear identity of your game. So if a coach can look at you and be like, okay, this is a winger, he can do this. But then also you want to work on your weaknesses as well. So if you can't use your weak foot at all, like if you have a terrible weak foot and because obviously having no weak foot at all makes you very very predictable. Like if you're a winger and the fullback knows, okay, he's gonna cut inside every time, just block off the inside, make him go line every time, and he knows that you can't go line every time. You're not going to be having success. You're not going to be impactful in the game. So, or if you have a poor first touch, like I said, make sure you work on trapping the ball, literally passing the ball against the wall, just doing whatever it takes to be done to improve that glaring weakness in your game. Because the things with the pros compared to the semi-pros, you can get away with glaring weaknesses at semi-pro level, in my opinion. You may be extremely slow. You may have an extremely bad first touch. You can get away with the extremes, if you get what I mean. You can get away with the glaring weaknesses. But at the pro level, those glaring weaknesses will be exposed. So even if you're like a fullback and you have so much pace, but your reading of the game is poor, at the semi-pro level, you might be able to get away. You might be able to get away with it with your recovery pace, but at the pro level, you're not going to be able to get away with it because at the pro level, that winger is just as fast as you. But because your game awareness, because your game awareness isn't there, that winger he's going to be too intelligent for you. He's going to make runs. He's going to come short. He's going to spin in behind. And as a fullback, even though you have pace, you're there looking lost because now he has 5 yards on you, and he's just as quick as you, so you're not catching him, and you're gonna get exposed. So that's that's the second point. Literally, what with the pros, they have one or two amazing attributes, and then their weaknesses aren't that far from their strengths. It's maybe here, whereas at the semi pro level, you might have a guy who has great strengths here, but he's weak, but he has glaring weaknesses that will just get him exposed at the pro level. So the last point I want to touch on is consistency. Now, with the professional footballers, everything is just consistent. You rarely see them make a mistake. You might see them make a mistake in matches, but it's rarely really like a stupid mistake. It's rarely a mistake where you go, why the fuck has he done that? Like it's rarely those type of mistakes that you might see in Sunday league, or you see at semi pro level, where someone's just done something where you're just like, what was this guy thinking? Like in professional football, normally when they make mistakes, it's kind of like, even if they look bad, you can kind of look at the situation and be like, okay, I kind of see what he was doing there. If you actually break it down, if you're watching the game, you might rewind and be like, oh, okay, so that's what he was doing. Whereas at the semi-pro level, someone at the semi-pro level, or even lower than that, someone might just do something where you're just like, what were you even thinking? Like, what was the plan there? I think with the pro game, even when they make mistakes, you can kind of, if you analyze the situation, you can kind of see, okay, that was the plan. Okay, he meant to pass it there. Okay, he wanted this action to happen, blah, 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 or something. It's always explainable at the pro level, whereas at the semi pro level, guys can make mistakes where you're just thinking, what the hell are you doing? So obviously with the pros, it's just always consistency as well with the weight of pass, their first touch every single time. You look at a guy like, let's take Riyad Mahrez for example. How many times has that guy seen the ball fly over to him and he just controlled it dead and he just started dribbling at his man? That's the difference. Like, have you ever seen a guy like Mahrez miscontrol of football? Like, I know we're talking about the top end professionals here, but still, you've never seen Mahrez like miscontrol the football. Like, it's just consistent every single time, bro. Like, these are the little things. Like, I remember I was watching a video from a guy called Matt Sheldon, Become Elite. You probably know the YouTube channel Become Elite, and he was saying that when he was a semi-pro player and he was playing again, he was training with professional players. They would do like a maybe they'd be doing like a passing drill, and then obviously the professionals, they would execute the passing drill perfectly, maybe 8 out of 10 times. They do the drill decently, maybe 1 out of 10 times, and then they might mess up 1 out of 10 times. Whereas him as a semi-pro player, he would probably do the drill really good 5 out of 10 times, and then he might execute it decently maybe 2 out of 10 times, and then he'd completely mess it up maybe 3 out of 10 times. And he was just talking about how that's the difference in levels between a semi-pro player and a pro player. It's just that consistency in the technicals, in the decision making, like I said, in the dribbling, shooting, passing. just all those little things, like just knowing how to receive the ball on the back foot every single time, knowing how to, if you're a fullback, knowing how to play the offside trap, or fullback or centre back, if you're anywhere in the defense, knowing how to time the offside trap, just little things like that, just making sure that the striker never has that chance to sort of run in behind, just little things, little things, just being consistent basically. And obviously, as if you're watching this as a young player, in my opinion, the best thing to do, all of these things that I've just listed, this just comes with experience, playing in big games, playing in high pressure games, playing against great players. So if you're a young player watching this, my advice to you would literally just be, just try find. I know it can be hard as a young player because obviously you're young, you don't really drive, you don't really drive, you can't really travel far to go to like training sessions, to go to games. But if you have the ability to do that, if you whatever's in your control, literally try just find the best players you can possibly play with. Whether that's players at a higher level, maybe that's players that are older than you. Maybe you're 13 and you go to your local Astra and you see like 18-year-olds playing. Ask if you can hop in with them. Maybe they're doing like a possession, like a keep ball slash possession type drill, or maybe they're doing some shooting, some passing, some dribbling. Just ask if you can play with them, because obviously iron sharpens iron, and if you play with players that are better than you, you're gonna eventually become better as well. So literally, just try play with players who are better than you, older players. Um, play in high pressure situations as well, because when you get to the pros, you're gonna have to get used to just playing under high pressure, playing in front of big crowds. So yeah, literally, that'll be my advice if you're a young player. Even with the pressure thing, just put internal pressure on yourself. Maybe you're training with guys who are older than you, training with guys who are better than you. Just tell yourself, all right, cool. I need to just set yourself objectives and targets throughout that training session. Just say, if you're doing a keep ball drill, just say to yourself, okay, cool. I need to make 10 successful passes in these next 3 minutes or something. Or just say, okay, cool, in this whole little 10-minute possession drill, I'm not going to lose the ball more than 5 times. Just put that internal pressure on yourself, so that when you make up the ranks, you're not really affected by the external pressure. Because in my opinion, pressure's all just internal. If you look at a guy like Cole Palmer, people say that, oh, he's too stupid to feel pressure, blah blah blah. And to be fair, he just proves it that if you don't feel pressure in here, that all the external is irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? So literally, pressure is just internal. In my opinion, you put pressure on if you feel pressure, that's the pressure you're putting on yourself. It's not really about the crowds. It's not really about the people watching, the coaches, none of that. Like I said, a guy like Cole Palmer, like, the people could be watching it, Euros, finals, big games for Chelsea. Like, he just doesn't care, because internally he doesn't feel the pressure. He doesn't really put the pressure on himself. So he just goes out there and plays his game. So yeah, that's what I'll say. Literally, if you're a young player, just work on playing with the best players you can possibly find, older players who will improve you, and just work on just dealing with the pressure, like putting pressure on yourself in any way you can. But that's all I've got to say for this vid. I hope you enjoyed. I've been JT, and I'm out.